And welcome to Let 'Em Talk. I'm Paul DiRienzo. Got an informative show for you this evening, and we're going to be talking about fracking again, and it's a very important issue. And we're going to describe what fracking is if you've heard that name and don't know what it is. And we're also going to be talking about pipelines, gas pipelines, what threat they might pose to New Yorkers because they're building them through New York City in populated areas. And we have two guests who are experts on this. They're here with us. Thank you very much. Kim Fraczek, right? I got it right. And Patrick Robbins.
Yes.
And
hi.
your organization is Green...
Sane Energy Project.
Green Sane Energy Project,
Just
right?
Sane Energy Project.
Sane Energy Project.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. And so welcome to the show. And we're looking forward to learning more about fracking and about these pipelines that are being built in New York City and this new, now that the price of oil is taking a fall, and we have a price war between Saudi Arabia and the United States because the U.S. is back to being an oil exporter, and gas and all these things are coming domestically within the United States, and that's changing the whole energy profile of this country very quickly, and people might not be on top of what's happening. So maybe we could begin, Kim, by you telling us what's going on with pipelines and fracking in the New York area, and we can talk about it internationally or nationally too later on, but what is specifically for New Yorkers here in Manhattan, Lower Manhattan, what do we have to face when it comes to gas, to fracking, to pipelines? What's happening?
Sure. Well, the local project that's happened here is the Spectra Pipeline. It's the New York, New Jersey expansion project of Spectra Energy. We fought that for a few years, and it actually went live last November 2nd in 2013. And so right now what the big threat to sort of New York City is that the gas that's coming into New York City through this pipeline now is potentially highly radioactive with radon, so that would be coming into our kitchen stove. So the whole gas conversion, the gas boiler conversion that Bloomberg was really pushing for New York City is now sort of setting people up to become customers and sort of locked into this new gas that's happening.
I thought you were going to say guinea pigs.
Well, sort of, right? So
well, whenever you talk about radiation, you're talking about guinea pigs, right?
Yeah. So we also have the Rockaway pipeline that's coming into this, actually currently under construction, coming in from the New York Lower Lateral pipeline out in the Atlantic Ocean into the Rockaway Peninsula and up Flatbush Avenue.
Isn't that what we're looking at right now behind us on the screen?
Correct.
My head's in the way.
Right behind the red
there we
line
are.
there,
Yes,
yeah.
this right here. Yes.
Okay, great. The red dotted line is the Rockaway.
That's correct. That's
Yeah,
the
they are right
Rockaway
there.
Lateral pipeline.
Okay, and what's the green line that it's coming from?
The green line that is coming from is
We'll see that more
the
later,
New
don't
York
worry
New
about it.
York Lower Lateral pipeline. So,
Well, let's tell people, folks, what exactly is it that we're talking about here? It's beautiful. It's a map of what?
Well, what Sane Energy Project did is we worked with several grassroots local groups throughout New York State, so we could actually map out all the shale gas infrastructure of our state, because we haven't really had a comprehensive view of what is actually happening to our state. And even though we aren't drilling high volume here yet, horizontal fracking, we have all the pipelines, the compressor stations, the waste facilities, the storage facilities, the power plants that are getting built. We realize that, in fact, we are already being fracked, even though we don't have high volume horizontal drilling yet.
Okay, so this map here is New York City, and so let's go through the colors. What's the blue line and the blue dots on the left?
So on our map we have all of the different infrastructure types in different colors, and each pipeline is a different color as well. So what you're seeing in the dark blue line is the New York, New Jersey expansion project of the Spectra Pipeline. The green is the local distribution line that's already in place that could potentially be increased as gas exports will want to be increased and shipped out. The orange line that we're looking at right between Patrick and I is a new project that is proposed in New York, off the coast of Long Island and Brooklyn here. It's called the Port Ambrose LNG Port, LNG standing for liquefied natural gas. And Patrick could tell you a little bit about that.
And what are the dots, like the red dots?
Sure. So the red dots are where, if you are a user of the You Are Here map, we wanted to really make this information available to anyone who wants to learn more and get involved in the struggle against fracking infrastructure. And the dots, as you can see, the colors of the dots correspond to the colors in the key in the lower right-hand corner. So if you want to learn more about that particular pipeline or that particular project, you would just run your mouse over that dot, and a little pop-up box comes up and gives you the information about the pipeline.
And there it is.
There it is.
Right.
The owner, the operator, and the basic information. Like if you want to get in touch with a local group that is working around that project, then that gives you contact information. To join the movement around that particular project.
Mm-hmm. I see. And okay, and this is all very interesting. So this is how when folks turn the gas on their stove, this is how it gets there. Where do all these lines lead to? If I were to get into one of them and follow it all the way back, where does it go?
That's a very difficult question. I mean, Kim, you can, if you want, do you want to talk about the source, and I can talk about the distribution a little bit?
Sure. So the source of the current gas is the Marcellus Shale, which is in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and it sort of edges over New York State. Right now, because drilling, we have a moratorium in New York on drilling. Most of the gas is being drilled from Pennsylvania, and it's being shipped through pipelines through New York State and Pennsylvania into what is now what they're considering the market. So it's going east. Everything's going east. Also, now that pipelines are now being built bi-directional, they are taking advantage of doing sort of like double pipelines where it could go in either direction, going up towards Canada for export or out towards our shoreline for export.
From Canada, if they want to sell us gas,
Canada,
or
absolutely.
we get just like electricity, so it can go in any direction.
Correct. So, right now we have sort of, because now we have this map completely laid out, and we really got a really nice big picture on what the agenda of the gas industry is. And
There's
now
New York State there, right?
Yep.
And where is this? What's the location of what's the web address for this map?
It's www.youareheremap.org.
youareheremap.org. All right, so folks they can get on the second screen right now, and they can follow it along with us as we discuss it, right? Absolutely. So this shows basically, now we like gas. I mean, gas I thought we liked in a certain way. I mean, it seems cleaner than coal and oil and gasoline, and it seems like we've been using it in our homes to heat and to cook food for 100 years. What's wrong with gas?
Well, we need to really start looking at the whole entire process, cradle to grave, on how the gas, how you get the gas, from everything from frac sand mining in the Midwest to drilling. People are being poisoned by this. The gas is not a renewable source, so it's a finite source. We are, at Sane Energy Project, we are really not only trying to notify people about, we have to end fossil fuel usage. We really, really need to work towards a renewable energy future.
I completely agree. That's really the situation that faces us right now. We really have a choice between fossil fuels and renewable energy, and that choice is purely an economic and political one. It's not a scientific one. The technology is there.
What does renewable mean?
Renewable, there's a host of technologies that we believe are far more healthy for the climate and far more healthy for the communities where they are placed. In particular, we are advocates of solar power and wind power, provided that the projects go through the process of ensuring that the communities where they are sited are not, are not suffering any kind of adverse impacts. We are strong advocates of the Mark Jacobson plan, which details how we can get not only New York State onto entirely renewable energy, but the entire continental United States as well. And I want to return just very quickly to what you said about coal and this notion of gas as a transition fuel, a bridge fuel, I don't know whatever term, there's a couple of different terms that get thrown around. It's actually been shown conclusively that over time periods of 20 years or so, methane and fracked gas is up to 80 times, or methane in particular is up to 80 times as hard a climate forcer in terms of heat trapping ability in the climate.
To make the greenhouse effect, to raise our temperature,
exactly right,
and lead to storms like possibly Sandy and wet winters like we had last winter, or this year, which is outrageously hot, outrageously cold. It seems to be something's happening with the weather. I don't know if it's natural, but more and more science seems to be saying that human activity is having an effect.
Certainly, and here in the Northeast, there is pretty conclusive science that global warming and climate change will lead to greater intensity of hurricanes, in our homes, and all of us already know what that's like.
And we saw the flooding, and in my neighborhood in the Lower East Side, we lost electricity for 7 days.
There you go.
And there was tremendous flooding, and people who lived a kilometer or more in from the water found that their basements were flooded right up to the street, and 5 or 6 feet on the actual street, like it was Florida or something like that.
And there was nobody there, I remember that neighborhood very well. We went out with Occupy Sandy and, went to see people, in the housing projects, on the Lower East Side. This was 5 days later, and people were saying, you're the first people we've seen. So, this is really an example. Hurricane Sandy is a terrific example of, compounding climate and social problems that we're just not equipped to deal with.
Okay, great. So I want to talk more about what fracking is, but I also want to talk about distribution, because when you talk about distribution, we talk about building more and more of these pipelines underneath our feet. I mean, I don't want to panic people, but when you see some of these pipelines have ignited, and it's unbelievable. It's like a blowtorch effect, like something out of the 22nd century science fiction novel. When you see a lighter go off as big as a house. So what do we fear? Is there something to fear? Let's scare them if there's something to fear. I mean, is there anything wrong with having this stuff under our feet?
Well, we're hoping. What we saw, a small 10-inch diameter low-pressure pipeline blow up in Harlem. At the beginning of the year. So
it took out the whole building and killed a couple of people, right?
Correct, right. And now what we're dealing with is that the Spectra Pipeline, which is 26 to 32 inches in diameter, and it's high pressure, and that's coming right into the West Village underneath a playground. So the new infrastructure is there specifically to frack up the goods and ship it out and try to get the highest price possible. So we really have to, if we can start really, working with our city council now, which we have a fantastic city council who really does want to transition our city to renewable energy, solar, wind, things that are not finite sources. Solar and wind are renewable sources. So this is a positive step for our city. If we can do that, we can really be a leader in energy infrastructure for the rest of the nation. People look to New York.
We're looking here at the East River, sort of blown up Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens, and New Jersey off to the side. What are those magenta dots? Are power plants?
Correct.
Those are actual sited gas power plant running on gas.
Correct.
So, and the green lines are bringing the actual gas lines into the plants, right?
Sure.
And the blue line is a major line
That's
that goes
the new
out.
Spectra Pipeline, right? And then the green is the older distribution lines from Con Ed. So the pink. If you notice that the second one down, I've met a few folks during the People's Climate March this year that live around there, and
that's City, the one by Long
yeah,
Island
it's
City.
called nicknamed Asthma Alley, the Big Alice plant there. It's kids and adults have been growing up there for generations with asthma, and now if they really start to expand this power plant here.
Well, to the north in the Bronx, there you see Hunts Point, where the blue
That's right.
the blue line leads to the green line there at Hunts Point. I used to teach PS 48 over there. PS48 Elementary School has the absolute highest asthma rate in the city.
Yeah.
I think something like 18% of the children in that elementary school suffer asthma attacks.
Yeah.
And
we need to put a stop to that.
Yeah, and it's terrible. It's really a serious problem. And one of the poorest neighborhoods, in fact, Hunts Point, which we're looking at right now, is the poorest congressional district in America, even more than the Native American reservations.
You know, Paul, you used a term, guinea pigs, that I think is important to return to in this context, because one of the scariest things about the gas that's coming in is that gas from the Marcellus Shale is very high in radon. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the radon that's coming into our homes through the use of, so-called natural gas, now that the Spectra Pipeline is online and bringing gas from the Marcellus Shale into our homes, and once the Rockaway Pipeline comes online, it'll be bringing that same gas into homes in Brooklyn and in other boroughs.
What is radon?
Radon is a gas that can be found in in natural gas, all natural gas, but in varying.
It's a contaminant within natural gas.
Indeed.
A natural contaminant.
Indeed, and it has been linked to cancer. It is the second leading cause of lung cancer in this country, and it takes about 10 years or so to really make its impacts and make its effects known. So the use of the term guinea pig is really apt here, because we're not seeing right now the impacts of this gas on our health.
It takes 20 to 30 years sometimes for radiation to have an effect.
It does, but it can take even shorter than that. We may start seeing higher rates as soon as 10 years, and we don't want to wait that long, right? Mm-hmm. We want to make sure that people aren't put at risk right now. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I just want to say about this is that all of this sort of language about this being, an energy security issue, something that will benefit us as consumers, that's really wrong-headed, since the ultimate game plan, as we've seen through our research, is ultimately to export this gas overseas and get much, much higher prices overseas, which does not benefit domestic consumers in any way.
We've had a couple of programs here about the situation in Ukraine, right? We've had it,
yes.
Which were not energy-related programs. They were programs about geopolitical issues and people from the region talking about those issues. However, in that conversation, it came out that behind the entire fight of what's really going on in Ukraine is over control over natural gas pipeline routes from Russia to Western Europe, and that Ukraine is the cheapest and fastest way to move natural gas between the largest supplier in Europe, Russia, and Eastern and Western Europe. So it is already, if it's, I guess getting to what you were saying about security, right? I mean, it's making us less secure in a way, because it's drawing us into conflict.
Correct. That's absolutely
with
right.
Russia, for example, a very large, powerful country. We're being drawn into conflict. We're being drawn into conflict as we speak, even though people might be enjoying a lower gas, fuel prices. At what cost in the relationships between large countries is that when they start fighting over money and fighting over cost of natural resources, it's never good for that.
It's a road we've been down.
Yeah,
many times,
in history,
yes.
It always leads to a bad place.
Exactly right.
I know.
Sure. So if we look at it, fossil fuels are directly tied to war all over the world, basically they want to frack us up and ship it out to the highest international bidder. And when they find that highest international bidder, our domestic prices will skyrocket. Everybody here in New York City will be hooked on a gas boiler. So the gas prices in our homes and apartments will skyrocket. It's not about economic independence. It's about Wall Street profit.
Right. But I have to come back and ask, because I would love nothing more than solar and wind to take over. But attempts were made in the 1960s and 1970s, for example, on the Lower East Side, to fit buildings with solar panels, to fit buildings with wind turbines. These were great ideas, but they really did not. They were interesting, but they didn't really do the job. I mean, is it really possible for us to live at the level that we want to live with our cell phones and all this equipment that we have around
Sure,
us.
there's already examples
Electric
all over
cars
the world.
coming down the line
Sure,
next.
I mean, there's examples all over the world right now. I mean, actually, China is the largest renewable energy producer in the world. We hear a lot about China's pollution, which, yes, they do have a problem with it, but they're doing it. Scotland, it was just announced yesterday that they are producing most of their energy now from renewable sources. Germany is doing a great job producing a lot of renewable energy. I mean, we just don't, in our policy here doesn't allocate the funds to be able to actually make this happen. So
that's exactly
You
right.
guys aren't pro-nuclear, by the way.
We're not
There's this whole class of environmentalists now who are saying they're pro-nuclear, like Al Gore and
James
folks
Hansen.
and others, who are coming out and saying nuclear is that's the true green energy.
Absolutely not. That is not a renewable source of energy. That's very highly polluting, incredibly toxic. We have the Indian Point nuclear facility just north of here, and now they want to build. They're proposing the Algonquin Interconnect Market Pipeline, the AIM pipeline going through Westchester County under the Hudson River, and the explosion. When that explodes, that is 1,500 feet away from the Indian Point nuclear facility.
I see. So you're saying that these explosive gas lines are being run under nuclear power plants now.
They're being run very close to nuclear power plants, close enough that it's alarmed many nuclear experts who are consulting on the project and looking into the project. That's very close to family members of my own, friends of my own, and I'm sure many of the viewers here, and so obviously that's very troubling as well.
I see. So you think that the modern approaches to solar and wind, and there's vertical wind turbines that just don't take up as much room, that can power things. There's solar is much more efficient than it's ever been, and the price.
The technology gets better every year.
Right. If you put the money into it, if we made a Manhattan Project
or a Marshall Plan concerning
renewable energy, could be done.
Absolutely.
One of the really interesting things that we have here in New York City, though, is right where you see, right in between Patrick and I, where the LNG port is proposed, is
What's
actually
LNG mean?
Liquefied natural gas. So basically, they want to take all this gas through these pipelines and ship it out to a facility that will be a marine terminal that will be
at that gray dot.
Correct.
Yes, at
and
the gray dot.
That would be about the size of the Empire State Building and about 12 stories tall, liquefying this natural gas, floating
so it goes
around
under the water, right? It's sort of like a
floating
pipeline,
on top of the water with
Yeah.
tubes coming out of the bottom of it that's constantly scraping, destroying all marine life. But right exactly in that same area is a proposed offshore wind farm. So right now we have a really incredible choice before us. So if we really need Governor Cuomo to veto this LNG port, because we really want to see offshore wind made. According to the Mark Jacobson plan, the solutions project that Patrick mentioned earlier, if we want New York State to go 100% renewable, we need 40% of our energy here coming from offshore wind. There are definitely environmental improvements that have been made on offshore wind to protect marine life and to protect birds and protect
those are some of the criticisms that ships were being birds were being killed by those spinning blades and things like that.
Right. This is about 20 miles off the this is about 20 miles off the coast.
There's even some evidence that the bases of the wind farms that could be constructed can actually act as reefs, or start acting as sort of ecosystems in their own
Any problem
right.
that humans put their mind to can be overcome if they put their mind to it, if they want to do it. Right?
I wouldn't go that far. But
we need to encourage people to definitely put their best mind forward, because we have the capability of creating incredible beauty and incredible power, with what we have. And it's just a shame that I do feel that we are really held hostage by the fossil fuel industry.
Yes.
And
the Koch brothers are good friends.
Great friends.
They pay for a lot of public television or museums.
Well, that's bribe money. So you forget.
Bribery.
You forget. What they're actually doing is they're actually destroying the planet for their personal profit.
Who's behind these gas companies, Spectra and all these? Where does that all lead back to? Wall Street, and behind Wall Street, who does that go? Who is it? The Koch brothers? Is it other? Can you put your finger on specific
the ruling
people?
Class.
The ruling
Yeah,
class.
ruling class.
Is everybody's in
One
it.
interesting thing about the Port Ambrose project is that Port Ambrose is as a project of Liberty Natural Gas, which is actually based in the Cayman Islands. We don't have any input on who their investors are. They're not legally obliged to disclose that to
And
us
is that
because of where
a,
they're based.
The Cayman Islands a tax shelter?
Correct.
Yes, indeed.
There's a twin project of the Port Ambrose right over the ocean off the coast of the United Kingdom that's already been approved for imports. And so they're telling us now that this project, the Port Ambrose project, is for imports, but we know that the end game, looking at the whole map of New York, that their end game is for export. They just approved an export facility in Cove Point, Maryland, which is directly across the street from people's houses.
Where do they export this stuff to?
Well, to Europe, to China.
Right, Europe has an insatiable demand for this kind of thing, right? So it'll just add.
Absolutely.
So we'll be competing with Russia.
And they're willing to pay much, much more for it than
they do.
the United States
Yeah.
is willing to pay for it. So, if they can, have much higher, ticket on it over in China and in Europe, why would they care about our, No,
Oh, I see. That's very interesting. All right, Kim Fraczek and Patrick Robbins have been talking to us. They're from Sane Energy.
Project. Yeah.
Sane Energy Project, and we're looking at this wonderful map. I mean, this is a very educational map. I mean, learning so much about what's underneath our feet, in New York City and in the entire New York State and the United States, what's bringing this fracked energy to us. Here's New York State here, and it shows you, and of course it stops at the borders, right? These pipelines continue on into Canada.
They do. We have there's a few people that are working on the Pennsylvania map right now that will hopefully, start linking everything up. It took us about 2 years to get this one together.
So you're the first. I mean, the companies have not provided us with this information.
Correct.
It's the citizen activists who have done this research and come up with this detailed
And
information.
it really has been a effort of a whole group of people. Lots of different concerned citizens from all over the state putting this together. And before we wrap up, I just want to say, as going back to the Port Ambrose project, that this is opposed by the communities that would be most directly affected. The city of Long Beach, the city council, and the city government have issued a letter in unanimous opposition to this project to Governor Cuomo. And so, if anyone is interested in getting involved in the struggle against this project, there's going to be on Long Island, in Long Beach, a town hall where they will sort of explain why it is that they are opposing this project and why they feel it's not in the interests of the community, at the public library at 111 West End, I believe is the address in Long Beach.
So folks who are hearing this or who are watching it on the internet can get in touch with their friends who live out in Long Beach and to tell them.
And in Long Island, all over the South Shore, we're hoping to get folks.
Well, you can
from
see
all
on the
over
map
South
where you're
Shore.
going to be. It shouldn't be
from
just
the Rockaway Peninsula all the way out. Yeah.
We got half a minute. Where is this map located? The website address.
www.youareheremap.org. And we are Sane Energy Project, www.saneenergyproject.org.
Wow, thank you guys for joining us and for giving us this frightening information. I'm like,
There's
my
hope.
God.
We have
I'm
the
going to
sun
worry
and we
about
have
where
the
I'm
wind.
walking from now on. Okay, so, but it's good to know, and thank you for doing this incredible job of informing the public. Thanks very much, and we'll have you on again to talk
Thank
about
you
this
very
some
much,
more.
Paul.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.